This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We are live on this Monday night. This is June 24th. We're coming to you right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. We're doing a live radio show and a live Facebook show and X and YouTube all at the same time. So if you want us, you got us on all those platforms. We're glad to be here. We missed Friday night. We were out. We were out at a wedding rehearsal dinner on Friday night, and then Saturday night went to a beautiful wedding. So we missed Friday night's show, but we're back. We're live. We got stuff to talk about. And I hope you guys are all out there doing good. I hope you had a great weekend. Hope everything went your way. Um, we just talk about health on this show. We try to talk about it as much as we can, and we try to share as many different ideas as we possibly can about health. And that's what the show is all about. So if you're new to the show, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, as Ken says, hate or love, either one, send it to us. You can send it to us in a text. 806-794-0400 is our text line. 806-794-0400, or you can send us a chat on any of the social media pages, and we'll be glad to try to answer those. If we can get them live on the radio, we'll do that. And if not, then we will answer them after the show is over. So we're doing both of these things live at the same time. And I got some feedback from some of our radio listeners. Well, one of our radio listeners last week, she gave me some feedback on some content that we were talking about and on some format that we were, some format ideas. So I appreciate that. I appreciate her listening to the show. Appreciate her caring enough to give us a little feedback. That's good stuff. We're getting close to having 10 months down. I was thinking about that this morning, and it's about time we get good at this at this show. I know you guys are thinking the same thing, but man, I hope that boy gets good at this show eventually. And that's something that I think is really important. So, hey, I had an opportunity to go to this wedding this weekend, and I had another opportunity to be social. I got out and danced danced with my wife. She loves to dance. She's a really good dancer. And my son and my daughter were out there dancing. Everybody was having a good time at the wedding. Got to control what I ate, got to control what I drank. There was the stuff on my plate that it was some pork tenderloin and some green beans and some mashed potatoes and a roll. And of course, you got wedding cake and all that stuff. And just wanted you to know that it's possible. You can go to a wedding and not eat the mashed potatoes and not eat the roll. Just eat the pork tenderloin and the green beans and drink you some water or some tea. I think all I had was water at the wedding, was a little tea at the rehearsal dinner, but didn't get into the cold beer, didn't get into the margaritas, didn't get into the wedding cake, none of that stuff, and had a great time. Had a great social time and didn't toxify myself with any of those things. And I just want you to know it can happen. It is possible to go to those sort of situations and do that. And it doesn't make any difference. I'm going to go to another one this weekend. This will be my fourth wedding that I've gotten to attend so far this year and this summer. And so I'm going to go watch my cousin's daughter get married. I guess that's my cousin first removed or whatever that is. But yeah, we're going to go to that wedding in College Station, go hang out with the Aggies this weekend. And that's going to be my fourth opportunity. But I can promise you on that trip, I'm not going to break my diet. I'm not going to eat any bread. I'm not going to make any bad decisions. I'm not going to make any bad decisions with my drink. And it's just become who I am now. We're almost 28 months that we've gotten into this thing. So the only reason I say that is not to say that you should do it my way. I don't think that my way is 100% correct. And I don't suggest anybody else have to do it my way. I just present it for you so that you know that you can. I just want to share that information with you because you'll tell me when you come into the office, oh shoot, I was at a wedding this weekend and you know how it is. I just had to have some of that wedding cake. And I'd be like, no, it's not how it is. You don't have to have any of that wedding cake. You don't have to put that stuff in your gut. You don't have to toxify yourself. You don't have to, it's not because you enjoy the cake. We know that is true, right? We know that's true. It's not because you enjoy the cake. It's because your brain is running off of the neurotransmitters that go along with it. So that's how it works. And what's funny is what I want to talk about tonight. I actually pulled out the old embryology book tonight. We're going deep. We're going to go deep into some thoughts tonight. That you want to talk about a book that's it's probably almost as it's probably almost as important as the Bible. That's that's not true. Sorry. Wait. Let me say that again. That's not the way I meant to say that. Is hang on one second. Let me get a mic check right here because I think I'm off. Let me see what these boys are saying. We're having trouble with our radio show, with our radio stuff again tonight. Um, and I'm getting some information right here in the studio that's telling me that my radio is dead. Um, but I don't know exactly if anybody, if you're listening to the show, you obviously you can't hear the show. So I know you guys on social media can hear me. We're good to go on social media. If you're listening to that, we're good to go. But sometimes our radio show, and I know you guys on social media, everything is delayed. You're watching me and the sound's coming through, and then my video is moving afterwards. I have worked and worked and worked and worked to try to fix that. I spent 2 hours on a chat on Saturday with the people that run this streaming service, trying to get them to fix this, and we can't figure it out either. We might just go into a complete technical and a complete technical breakdown tonight. So, um, uh, hang on. We'll see what's going on. We might have to call this. We have to cut this show short tonight, and see if we could work out these details. Because I know if, well, let's just say this: if you are listening to me on the radio and you can hear me, would you send me a text and tell me you can hear me? Because I got a feeling you can't hear me. I got a feeling, and that's the second time that I've been cut off here in the last few minutes. So, um, and I hate all you guys to hang around. All of the social media people, I hate for you to check in on the show and hang around for it and try to wait for us to do stuff. But I was thinking about it today. The it's life, and I don't think we do enough. I don't think we do enough good enough job to talk about life. Um, yeah. But life is life is just not perfect. I was irritated all day long. I was fired up and ready to go, and it was Monday morning, and we got these weddings out of the way. We got another one this weekend, so I don't have enough time, a lot of time this weekend to do the studying and the things that I want to do, and the world keeps eating up my free time. I'm getting behind on my neurofeedback stuff that I'm needing to read and prepare for, and it's just like all this stuff, and it's like life is just not it 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 ebbs and flows. It moves in your direction sometime and it moves away from your direction sometime. And sometimes things go the way you think they're supposed to, and sometimes they don't. And when things don't go the way that you're supposed to, it creates stress, right? It creates stress. You get fussy. I've been fussy at Leslie all day long. She's been fussy at me for being fussy at her. I'm in the middle of trying to adjust patience. I'm like, hey, y'all, it's Monday. Let's go. Come on. We got people to see. We got people out there that's like y'all sitting back there just yapping behind the front desk. Like, what are we doing? Let's go to work. It's time to go to work. It's like we got things to do up here. And and then you mention anything and it creates drama and all that story. And I know everybody's got it, right? You got it at your job, you had it at your job, you got it at your church, you got it at your school, whatever, wherever it is, right? We're sitting here trying to do a radio show and I can't get the daggum radio thing to work, and it just kicks me off. And then I'm trying to get information to tell you whether or not it's working or not to try to carry on with the show. And there's nobody listening to the show, so we don't have any idea if it's working or it's not working. And so it's just kind of like, okay, it's just it kind of makes you wonder what you're doing sometimes. But I guess it's just another opportunity to say, hey, look, what are you doing with yourself? What are you going to do to make it work? What you got to just work through all the challenges. It's just part of life, is working through the challenges. And if life was easy, then everybody would do it. I mean, just everybody be successful at it. But it's not easy, and there's so many things that you're not control. The cool thing about it is we gave great adjustments today. The cool thing about it is while I was with the patients, I was present with the patients. We were working on the things that we could do. We had fitness classes this morning. We worked out. We got 80-year-old man working out there in the gym this morning, doing push-ups and wall balls and side steps on the vibe plate. And what else did we do? Rowing and biking. And we did that for 20 minutes this morning. Then we walked around our whole neighborhood. He's 80 years old. He's in here working out. That's valuable to me. That means something. That makes a difference in our community. That makes that person's life better, right? That not all the day sucked. Only half the day sucks. Only half the day is irritating. The other half the day is awesome, and that's the balance. And since we don't have anybody on the radio, we might as well we could talk about this part of it. We may just talk till we get tired and then just shut it down. But that is the balance of life, right? That is the sine wave. That's the DeMartini stuff that we learned. That's the sine wave right there. And half of the sine wave is positive and half the sine wave is negative, and the point in the middle. I mean, we can all conceive that idea, right? That point right there in the middle, if this is positive and that's negative, there has to be a point, and it's going to be a very small point. They're going to get into Plancks and all that sort of thing where it gets really, really, really small. But there has to be a point where that transitions over from positive to negative or from negative to positive. I mean, depending on where you start your sine wave, but there has to be, and there may be some. I might have should have started it positive and then negative. It doesn't make any difference, but I can in my own brain conceptualize the idea that is what they call the God particle. I think that's how you would spell it. Yeah. So the God particle is the point that it's neither positive nor negative. It just is. It just is in the middle. And what Dr. DeMartini says is that's where the love is, and that's where the peace is. And so I could say that on a day like today, because like in the middle of this moment, and in the middle of the day, it wasn't all challenging. Just half of it was challenging. And we live right, we thrive right there on the border of support and challenge. That's where we move. If life is just supporting all the time, and all we get is support, we get fat and lazy. We have no reason to thrive. We have no reason to be great. We have no reason to try to want to win the game. Like if it's just all support and no challenge, then we just become fat and lazy. If it's all challenge and no support, then what happens is we become bitter and resentful. If we can't ever get ahead, if we just are always working, but we can't ever get ahead, it's just got constant work. We can't ever get ahead. Nothing matters. It's like beating us down, beating us down, beating us down. Then we just get bitter. We get resentful in that moment. But life is flowing back and forth, and can we see both sides? And I really believe it's the master. And this is where the maturity part comes in, right? What if I could just, because this is amplitude, the distance from the line to the bottom and the distance from the line to the top, that's the amplitude. So what if I could lower my amplitude? What if I could move that down and lower my amplitude? So let's just say we did that. Now I'm going to start this thing, and I'm going to run that sine wave like this. All the way through. And I didn't draw it perfectly, but you guys get the point. Okay, if I can lower my amplitude, then I basically increase my frequency. And what do I do with my time on the line? I increase my time on the line. So now I spend more time on that God particle. I spend more time in peace and love because I was able to control my amplitude. So what controls my amplitude? I think it's my maturity. I think it's my health. I think it's my outlook on life. I think it's my vitamin D levels. I think it's my omega 6 3 levels. I think it's how many minutes I slept last night. I think it's the food that I put in my body. I think all those things, the exercise that I get, I think those things are what control our amplitude a little bit. And I can tell you what, my dad used to get mad, man. He was mad most of my life. I consider him pretty angry. He was mean and he was mad most of my life. He mellowed out in the last, I don't know, 10 years of his life, but for 43 years, he was pretty dang intense all the time. Why? Because his body didn't work. His spine didn't work. He didn't eat properly. He couldn't move properly. His brain didn't work properly. So what was he? He was bipolar. That's a bipolar person to me. That is this downward, way up high, downward, way up high type of model. Like when he went down, he was way down, and when we went up, it was way up. That's manic and depressive, and those phases that a person goes through, and that's what happens in this model of life that we go through, where we just see half of it. Man, my day was great. How was your day? It was great. No, it wasn't. Half your day was great, and half of it sucked. Right? That's really how it worked. Oh man, my day sucked. No, it didn't. Half of it did. If there's balance in the universe and there's God didn't disappear, it's like that's a question. Where is God not? Where is God not? If you believe in God, where is God not? If you don't believe in God, then what is your compass of earth? What of being? Where do you pull your center point to? What is your due north? Whatever your thing is, right? But in our world, where is God not? Did God disappear when my world went south? No. If he didn't, so what's the lesson? Is there a lesson? Is there a journey to this whole thing? Yes. So what can I do? What I think, and this is what DeMartini taught me, is I think we can actually stay on the line. I think we can spend our time with very low amplitude, high frequency. And if we stay with low amplitude, high frequency, we'll spend more time on that line where the love and the peace is. Now, when the world tends to go down, when the world wants to drop and do this little dude right there, and I stay on the line and I watch it from there and I look at it and I say, you know what? That sucked, but I'm not going down there. I think I have a better control over my internal environment. I think my physiology actually stays more stable when I'm able to stay on the line and recognize that really did suck. Because there's things in life that suck, right? I mean, there's things in life that are just absolutely horrible, like that things that happen to people are horrible, and things that happen, just the way people treat other people are horrible. It's not just about whether or not we got busy working in the chiropractic office today. That's so ridiculous in the first place compared to the stressful things that people had to deal with, in their daily routine. That's not something that is all that fabulous. I mean, any big deal, but there are things that'll ebb and flow throughout the day. And if I can stay in the middle where the peace and the love is, and I cannot go up there, because once I go down here, I'm going to create something that's going to bring me back up. But then if I go up here, I'm going to create something that's going to bring me back down. Because really, what the earth is trying to do, what the world is trying to do, is get me back to the love. Everything is trying to get us back to love. That's Dr. DeMartini's teachings right there. And so we don't want to ride that roller coaster up and down. And we don't want to ride that roller coaster up and down for our physiology either. We don't need the stress. We don't need the adrenaline. We don't need the cortisol. We know that that's factual, right? We know that. I could probably bring that up. See if I can. I'll pull this up a presentation, and we know that yeah. So now let's see if I can change the slides. See if we can move a little bit. This is all Dr. Chestnut stuff, who's a great teacher. That this is where I was going to talk about this today. This is where it gets into this whole, our bodies are made up of cells, and inside the cell, and that's this. Oh, I know we've seen this all before, but our cells are genetically. There's not a single study ever published to validate the concept that human beings are genetically or innately programmed to develop chronic illness. All available research indicates that humans are innately genetically programmed for homeostasis and health. That you guys have seen this slide before. Yeah. So we're not innately or genetically programmed for chronic illness, but we develop chronic illness. So why do we do that? Why is it that we develop heart disease when we're not genetically designed to develop heart disease, or we're not innately designed or programmed to develop heart disease? Why do we manifest heart disease? What is going on with us? Right? That's why are we getting diabetes? There's no genetic code for diabetes. Like, we're not expressing the genetics of diabetes. What we're expressing is the inability to adapt to the environment. It's called unadapted physiology. Our physiology is the ology of our physics. It's of our biophysics. It's our life. That's what biology is. It's the study of life. Physiology is the study of the systems inside the body and how they work. And there's never been a study that says that we should develop. There's no genetics that says we should have diabetes. I don't buy that for a second. That's not really what we're after. What we're doing is we're putting ourselves, and I didn't mean to get into this, but hey, what the heck? It's fun. We got to adapt. We got to audible, and we got to adapt. That's life, right? Our bodies are made up of cells. Inside our cell is our DNA, which is our genetic code. That's our library right there. Okay? So one of the things I was going to read tonight was from embryology. So it's like, where does your vertebral column start? Where does your vertebral column work? During the fourth week of development, cells of the sclerotomes shift their position to surround both the spinal cord and the notochord. This mesenchymal column retains traces of its segmental origins as the sclerotomic blocks are separated by less dense areas containing intersegmental arteries. Now, I know you don't know what that means. I know that's craziness. But the point I wanted to make, I mean, it's a bunch of words that we don't really understand yet, right? And hang on, hang on a second. I've got QR codes showing up over here. You don't have to donate anything to the show. Sorry. Yeah, I got a bunch of new slides and I can't figure them all out. But um, so, but what I wanted to point out about this was during the fourth week of development. It's during the fourth week of development that we're talking about the disc. Like we start to get the intervertebral disc involved in this thing, like that whole thing formation. During the fourth week of development, we get that condensation and proliferation of the caudal half of one sclerotome proceeds into the intersegmental mesenchyme and cranial half of the subjacent sclerotome A and B. You don't know what that is, but it's in the fourth week of development. We got cells that make, then we got them that make our ribs and sternum. Then we got them that make our musculature and limb musculature. Here you go. The first indication of limb musculature is observed in the 7th week of development. Ooh, you know what? I have been on the radio the whole time. I can't do anything about it, but I don't even know. Whatever. Um, I'm gonna keep. I don't even have a microphone. I don't even know if they're hearing me. We got a good show going on. I don't really know if I'm on or I'm off. I hate to talk over the. I hate to talk over it. We might just go. Um, all right. We're off now. Okay, so we don't have to worry about the radio. Um, let me make one more and then. Okay. Um, the limb. What I was saying is limb musculature is observed at the 7th week of development as a condensation of mesenchyme near the base of the limb buds, which goes from basically from C6, C4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and T1 and T2. You get these limb buds, and then you start to develop the radial nerve, the ulnar nerve, the median nerves. The radial nerve, which supplies the extensor musculatures, is formed by a combination of the dorsal segment branches, whereas the ulnar and median nerves would supply the flexor musculature. But the point of it is it's embryology made up of cells, and those cells are firing, and the genetics inside the cell is teaching us, is making us build a body. The genetics inside the cell at the 7th week is starting to make muscles in our arms in the 7th week of development. That the spinal cord is getting the differentiation between bone and disc at the 4th week. It's making that go right there. And then we're going to start to get this growing off of the peripheral nervous system that's going to come off of the central nervous system. And that is made up of cells. And those cells have the DNA that's telling the body what to do right there, right? There's no DNA in there that's telling the body to make diabetes. There's no DNA that's telling the body to make heart disease. There's no DNA in there that's telling the body to make cancer. That's not in there. That's not part of health. So we put those cells together and we get tissues. There's your heart tissue, but that heart tissue, there's your stomach tissue. There's the smooth muscle tissue. That's the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is smooth muscles, organs, and glands. So smooth muscle. that surrounds your heart, that's in the lining of your intestine. You got this stomach tissue. You got this columnar epithelium. You got that columnar epithelium, and in one of those cells in that columnar epithelium is a neuropod cell that is detecting the glucose and the fats and the proteins that are being digested into the system. That the neuropod cell is now firing back into the brain through the vagus nerve to tell us what we're eating and why we're eating it and what's going on, right? And that is is our nervous system. And if we get a bunch of tissues made up together, we get organs. And if we get a bunch of organ systems made up, then we get a human being. We get a person, right? And so, let me fast forward this and see if I can get to. So, what are we doing to ourselves? We're putting ourselves into an environment that's incongruent with health. There's the physiology of stress. There's the brain. There's how awesome the brain is. There's the autonomic nervous system. There's the system right there. There's where we start to get into the autonomic nervous system of parasympathetic and sympathetic. There's all of the parasympathetic things that are going on. Here's all the sympathetic things that are going on. So you combine those two things together, and the physiology of it, what's happening, whether you're regardless of whether you're actually experiencing an event you perceive as stressful, or whether you are thinking about a past or future event you perceive as stressful, the physiological state you express is the same. It doesn't matter if you're stuck in an old thing. And and so I wanted to just get into I wanted to just show you these things because it goes along with our sympathetic stress that we get caught up in whenever we're out of balance in our day. Whenever we just see the negative over the positive instead of recognizing both sides at the same time. So there's a stress response. All sympathetic activities are increased. Heart rate, blood pressure, increased blood sugar. All parasympathetic activities are decreased. Sex glands, sex drives. Let me see if I can hide some of this stuff right here. Get it out of the way. There we go. Um, Parasympathetic activities, sex glands, sex drive, digestion, growth hormone production. You don't need those things when you're being eaten by an alligator. Sex glands and testosterone and estrogen get messed up when you're stressed out, right? We know that, right? We know that. So what did I do? I caused stress for Leslie today. Caused stress in that because I was like, hey, come on, let's get to work. The sympathetic system sends a message directly to your adrenal glands. The adrenal glands release catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and glucocorticoids, cortisol. And this article talked about it. Increased evidence suggests that the detrimental effects of glucocorticoid hypersecretion, too much of it, occur by the activation of the HPA axis in several human pathologies, including obesity, Alzheimer's disease, AIDS, dementia, and depression. Which one of those are chronic diseases? Every one of them. Those are chronic things. Maybe not depression, might not be fall into that chronic disease thing, but obesity, Alzheimer's, maybe AIDS, maybe that's not chronic. That's some sort of virus. Dementia and depression. That's what will happen if we get too stressed out. And then the sympathetic hormones are going to kick in. We're going to get this amygdala, which is going to stimulate in the brain. Factual learning, working memory, ability to focus attention is decreased, right? Because what are we doing? We're overstimulating that right hemisphere of the brain when we don't recognize the balance. If we don't recognize the balance, if we don't recognize this, then what happens is our day, if we are the light of the world, then half our day is going to be negative and half our day is going to be positive. So we have to understand that's the ebb and flow of the day. That's why I think philosophy fits. I don't think it's like it helps explain things to us, because I could take this model, and I can cancel that, and then I can draw that same thing over here. Oh, that's horrible. You're just going to have to forgive me, but I'm going to do that again, see if I can make that better. But we got our sine wave. there, and it's positive and negative. I switched it this time, and I can draw that, and I can understand the physics of that, or at least to a certain extent. I don't understand it like a true physics person understands it, but I can understand it to a certain extent. But then I can draw this, and I can understand that too. I could say right side, left, and left side brain, and then I can understand the physiology of stress and the presentation that goes along with the physiology of stress. And I can understand the right hemisphere overactivation, which now I can understand focused attention is on the left side. And I can understand if I'm stuck over here on the right side, I'm not going to be able to focus attention. How many times do you get in trouble as a kid because you're not focused? I mean, how many times did you get in trouble when you were a kid? How many times do you get mad at your kids because they can't focus? And how many times of the times that we ever got in trouble did our parents ever stop and say, I wonder why they're so focused? Well, I wonder why they're so preoccupied in their right hemisphere. I wonder if it has anything to do with the Pop Tarts they had for breakfast. you think you think it had something to do with it? Yes. So all this physiology matches to me this whole neurology. This is philosophy. This philosophy matches neurology, which now matches physiology, which gives you heartburn and sore muscles and gout, as we talked about last week. Right there, now we got physiology where it gets down to the point where most people actually understand it. Now, if we're going to talk about heartburn, which I just get tired of talking about because it's not the cause of the problem, it's the end result of the abnormal. It's a, adapted physiology is our ability to adapt. That's the chestnut, adapted. He talked about this all the time. Adapted physiology is our ability to adapt. Unadapted physiology is pathology. That's your diagnosis. So now you're going to get a diagnosis of gout. You're going to get a diagnosis of heartburn. You're going to get a diagnosis of, what are we going to call this? Fibromyalgia. Or we're going to get into our favorite, arthritis. We're going to get into one of those. We're going to find some sort of diagnosis, because the only reason that we're going to find that diagnosis is to decide how we're going to treat it. And the most of the time, it's with some sort of drug, which is pushed by a pharmaceutical industry. In my world, I don't care because I'm not going to use drugs. So if you're not going to use drugs to solve heartburn, how are you going to solve heartburn? That's a philosophical question that we deal with in a wellness office all the time. It's a philosophical question. If you're not going to use Celebrex to fix arthritis, how are you going to fix arthritis? Well, you better work on the physiology. If it's unadapted physiology, that means I'm not adapting to the environment. My physiology is not adapting to the environment. So what in the environment is causing my body to lose its ability to adapt? Well, I love this kind of stuff. I don't know if it makes any sense to you guys or not, but I absolutely. Let me see if I can find that again. I don't know where it went, but let's see if it showed up. No, it didn't show up in the same. I'm gonna have to go back through these slides again, but there's our cells, there's our body, there's the way we work. Right here, any toxicity or deficiency in relation to the innate genetic environmental requirements causes the body to enter the stress response and results in a lack of homeostasis or health. The stress response always results in an alarm followed by an attempt to adapt. An attempt to adapt. And if I can't adapt, I will get fatigue, I will get illness, and then I will get death. So that's the process of the stress response. Well, it's an attempt to adapt, but I didn't adapt. So it's unadapted. And we cannot adapt to an environment that's incongruent with our genome. We can't adapt to an environment that's incongruent with the genetic code that we have that's inside the cell, which is how we actually adapt to our environment. Well, we can't do that if the genetic code is not inside the cell, so we can't adapt to this amount of sugar that's going on. We can't adapt to the lack of sleep. We can't adapt properly to all the things out there that are incongruent with health. And if I'm not going to use a drug to solve the problem, I have to work on the physiology. That is really man, that ended up being pretty cool, really. That's what your wellness doctor does for you. Try it. Try it for a day. Try it for a week. Um, just try to get yourself. Try to fix your problem without medication. Try to fix your problem without medication. What would you do? If you didn't have any pills to solve your high blood pressure problem, what would you do? If you didn't have any pills to solve your arthritis, what would you do? If you didn't have any pills to solve your asthma problem, or if you didn't have any pills to solve whatever your thing is, right? Whatever your deal is, that's a wellness, and that's what we do. And I'm telling you, that's cool. It's a cool life to live. And if you're out there and you don't know that, then there's a place for you here. There's a place for you to come be well. And it's Chestnut will say, eat well, move well, and think well. I think the reason I say that Chestnut says that is because he trademarked it, I think. So I'm giving him credit every single time that I say it. Eat well, move well, and think well. That's what Dr. Chestnut taught. And that's what he says, right? We know that. If I put good food and proper food into my body will express health. It doesn't have to adapt. It doesn't have to attempt to adapt, which means it's not going to create fatigue. The fatigue is the in part of my environment that I'm not adapting to. And so I think it's an important sentence to ask ourselves. I think it's an important question. Are you tired all the time? If you're tired all the time, you're probably in an environment that's incongruent with health. And if you can't get any rest, then my mom's all worried about me because I'm not getting enough rest. It's like, it's not the work that's wearing me out. It's the other stuff that wears me out. That's the part of my environment that I have to learn to balance through my philosophy. I have to understand through my philosophy, I think, that's the part that's really messing me up. That's where the nutrition comes in. That's where I'm not going to eat the cake at the wedding. I'm not going to eat the cake at the wedding. And hopefully I'm not going to eat any more cake ever at any wedding. I love the people at the wedding. I can go to the wedding. I can dance. I can be social. I can pat everybody on the back. I can shake hands and say, everybody, we can catch up on old times and have a good time at the wedding. We can actually celebrate a man and a woman wanting to get married together in a holy matrimony and go for it, right? I'll even go that I mean, we can even celebrate the whole thought of a wedding, but I don't have to drink a beer, and I don't have to have a margarita, and I don't have to have any of that cake. Because I don't want to change my physiology. That's pretty simple right there. Hey, I didn't mean to get into that tonight, but we just adapted. In football, we call it audible, right? So you come up to the line of scrimmage, you got a play called in the huddle, and you walk up to the line of scrimmage, and the defense is wrong. You don't need to run that play into that defense. So what do? You just change the play. You just audible. And that's what we did tonight. We just audible. So we're going to cut it short because we don't have a radio show to worry about. We don't have a time clock. We'll cut it short a little bit tonight. If you guys got any questions, you got anything you'd like for me to talk about, send it to me, please. I would love to talk about it. And other than that, you guys have a great evening. We'll be back tomorrow night at 6 with Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. Hope you enjoyed this.